Good afternoon, guys. I just thought I'd quickly go live. I've just been involved with a eschatology debate with Keith Foskey, Zach Allen, and Brian Gunter. And it was a good time, and everyone was very friendly. And it was, I think I got my point of view across, and they allowed me to share my pre-trib, pre-millennial position. But I just thought I'd just clear up one thing. When Brian was asking questions, I sort of felt like sometimes in these debates it can be, a little bit of pushback here and there. And so I just thought I'd tidy up what he actually asked, because I felt like I was sort of not necessarily just talked over, but I think he got the wrong idea of where I was heading with it. And so I thought I'd tidy that up. So let's just jump straight into this. Now, I haven't done an intro or anything like that because, or really announced this, because it's just straight after the debate. I'm pretty tired and I'm not going to let this video go on forever. But I did just want to tidy up some things that were mentioned here, just for those who would go, okay, well, was Nick able to answer that? I think you can sort of tell by my facial expressions. I'm like, well, I'm not really getting represented in that particular spot. There were other times when everything was just fine, but I'm just going to specifically talk about Revelation 4:1, which I know quite a lot about. And so I guess when I'm talking about it, I start from the beginning and I have a rant about it. And I think he grabbed that beginning and just started talking about that. So let's just jump straight into this. Okay.
Ask questions of you, Nick, now that will kind of show some of the differences between how you understand these verses and how I do. I want to go to...
So Brian's coming from a position where he believes in a pre-millennial position, but it's the historical position. So it's not from a dispensationalist perspective.
Revelation 4 verse 1. You said in Revelation 4 verse 1 that metatauta refers to the rapture. So after these...
So I didn't really say that. I'm sort of like, no, I didn't say it refers to the rapture. I think there's just a bit of confusion about that. So what I was saying was metatauta refers back to Revelation 1, where you have the past, the present, and the future. Jesus says to John, right, the things that you have seen, the past, and the things which are the present, and the things which shall be hereafter. And those Greek words are metatauta. So it's not really, I didn't really say the Greek to show off or anything. It's just the hereafter there is metatauta, and that metatauta is translated twice in Revelation chapter 4, verse 1. It's translated as after this. So I might even get this up on the screen rather than just talk about it. I'll put it on a new. Here we go. I'll make this nice and big for you guys. Where are we? Edit. View. Zoom. I sort of want the font to be big. How do I do that? I'm not really familiar with Notepad. Font. It's going into settings. I don't really need that. Just view. I guess I'll just zoom in. Maybe I'll just go. Whoops. I'll just zoom in like, there we go. So it says here, Revelation 4, and after this, which is metatauta, which can mean, okay, after this, this happened. After this, that happened. But you got to look at the context. It says, after this, I looked, and behold, a door was open in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was, as it were, of a trumpet talking with me, which said, come up hither, and I will shew thee things which must be hereafter, or metatauta. So it's the exact same English word back in Revelation 4:1. You're looking at metatauta is used in Revelation 4:1. Hereafter is used there, but also these words, after this. So the King James translators could have said hereafter I looked, but they put after this. But obviously that's related to the narrative. But this is obviously talking about things that must be after this. And so that, and Bryan was trying to sort of say, what is after this? I think he sort of missed the point that there's two metataftas in this verse. But anyway, I'll jump back and we'll just continue.
Things or after this, Tauta, what is the reference? What is this? What is this that Tauta is referring to?
I guess because I was talking really fast because we had the 7-minute thing, maybe it might have skipped over that. I was saying metatafta it means hereafter or after this. So it means those exact same two things here. So Revelation 4:1, after this metatafta and hereafter metatafta. And so it can be translated either way. And so obviously I'm bringing it back to Revelation 1:19, which I'll show you here. So Revelation 1:19 says, write to John, write the things that you have seen, thou hast seen, and the things which are present in John's day, the 7 churches, and the things which shall be hereafter, or metatafta. So obviously this is the way that the word of God is divided in the book of Revelation. And so, and I actually sort of said this, like, it's not like a weird thing. Like if you read anything to do with dispensational theology or anyone trying to make a chronological sequence in the book of Revelation, they will use this. And even I even mentioned Bart Ehrman, not because I agree with him on everything or anything like that, but it's like, well, it's sort of like he mentions this as well. It's not like it's a hidden thing, only I've come up with it. And so it's sort of like a daft thing. Well, even Bart Ehrman's using that type of argumentation to say, well, this is what the Christians believe, sort of thing. This is what a dispensationalist believes. So he's, obviously Bart Ehrman's summarizing, and he would misrepresent us and all the rest of it. But here he actually is representing dispensational belief very accurately. And so I'm like, well, even Bart Ehrman says it. It's sort of like saying, well, even Wikipedia says this. It's not like it's not my own idea. It's not like I've just come up with this metatafta idea. That's pretty much what it means there. So let's continue. And so that's relative back to Revelation 1, where it talks about the past, the present, and the future is metatafta, or after this. So metatafta appears twice in Revelation chapter 4, verse 1, sort of indicating that is the beginning of the future period that Jesus told John to write about. So chapter 1 would be the past, where John saw Jesus. Chapter 2 and 3 would be the present, the 7 churches in John's day. And chapter 4 onwards would be the metatafta, or the hereafter.
Okay, so the word tauta in Greek is the near demonstrative, this thing. John's pointing at something. After this, my question is, what is the this that John is referring to?
I mean, that would only refer to the first metatafta, after this, because it clearly, the context is, it says, and the first voice which I heard was as it were of a trumpet talking with me. And so this is Jesus saying this. He said, come up hither. So come up here, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter, or after this. And so that hereafter contextually is going to be something that's in the future. So he's going to show him something. The whole book of Revelation is a vision. And so he's going to show him things that are in the future. And then the very next verse, he's around the throne. So that's like obviously not just the same as after this. After this, I saw a beast. After this, this happened. After, it's not just narrative. It's not just John just talking and leading on to something. It's clearly something that Jesus is going to show John future visions. Anyone can see that. So I think what Bryan is doing, he's only looking at this first metatafta. He sort of skipped over the fact that I pointed out that there's 2 metataftas here. And obviously the hereafter is the choice of the King James translators. They're looking at the hereafter. They're matching it up with this hereafter. Exactly the same Greek, exactly the same English. In context, it's talking about future events happening. And so I can understand, Brian only looking at the first one and going, what is this? Yeah, what is that? It's like, well, I'm sort of trying to explain it, but, I know now what he's saying, because he's missing the fact that there is the hereafter at the end of that verse. So let's continue with his question.
Referring to after this, what is this?
My understanding would be that would be the beginning of a new dispensation of this 70th week of Daniel. So after this, so in my thinking, I'm thinking he's asking, okay, so how does this fit in with your eschatology, sort of thing? So not just a grammatical thing like, after this, sort of trying to dismiss the whole thing of metatafta. I mean, I could just leave the Greek out of it, metatafta, and just go with hereafter. It says the context, I will show you things that will be hereafter in the future. And so, or after this, that is still future. So this
talk about the new dispensation in the text after this.
So I guess, so he's only focused on the first metatafta. He's not focusing on the second one. After this, it is translated as hereafter. And after this, in that same verse, the first word and the last word.
For the
and I think the thing is, like, sort of like, if you don't mind, Nick, I'm trying to explain a technical thing. It's sort of like someone saying, so you just said, the square root of 954,212 is this, and then you're trying to answer it and you get talked over. That's why I'm doing this video, because I sort of felt like this was the only part of the whole time where I sort of felt like I was a bit muzzled. So let's just go through this slowly, and I'll answer this accordingly.
Second time, the near demonstrative refers to something in the text. It's the near demonstrative because there's something in the literary context to which.
So I'm not sure why he's saying this to me. Like, I understand that when he's saying this, after this, it's referring back to something that's happened before. I mean, it's quite obvious. So I'm not even talking about that one. I'm trying to explain to him, there's two metataftas here. You're speaking about this one. I'm speaking about the hereafter here. So you should be focused on that as well. That's sort of your answer. But then he's going back to the first one. So he's not really listening to the answer. And I think that's the thing, like, in what we're doing, it was a kind of loose format, but I think I did question people and allow them to answer until they were finished answering and not, talking over them.
The near demonstrative points. There's a this in the text. This tells you that there's something that John just said in the first 3 chapters, somewhere in the prior verses, that he's pointing to. So after this, so what in the first 3 chapters does chapter 4 come after this? What is the this? Because
so he's talking about the first one, and I'm sort of like, well, why is he talking about that? So I'm only realizing that he's not realized there's 2 metataftas there. I'm thinking he's listened to me, he's taken that on board, but he's still got a point to make. So I'm like, okay, well, what's the point here?
It doesn't refer to a dispensation in the first 3 chapters.
I guess it's talking about Christ, talking about the past, the present, and the future, the metatafta. He's talking about the present has happened. That was the present in John's time. It's the age, I would understand that as the age of grace. And so after this, he's just talked and said, the Spirit says to the churches, the Spirit says to the churches, and it's all in red. Jesus is talking to the churches. He's those candlesticks in Revelation 4 are before the throne. So something happens there. So in what I'm saying there is, he's saying, okay, so how is this a new dispensation? It's like, well, okay, so we've gone from talking about the Greek that, he's missed the whole concept of the prophetic context of the second metatafta in that verse. He thinks I'm talking about the first one. So I'm sort of like, okay, well, and then he's asking me about the first one. So I'm like, well, that verse has metatafta there twice. The issue of the church is the 7 candlesticks in chapter 1. In chapter 4, they're before the throne. And so obviously something's happened for them to go from that place to before the throne. And to me, that shows that the rapture's already happened. And so that's just one tiny bit of information in Revelation 4:1. Like if I was given, like, say, 2 or 3 minutes, like I gave these other guys like a long time to answer, but some of these I'm not even given like 10 seconds, and I'm sort of rebutted and then asked another question, and it's like, no, that's why I'm doing this video.
So here's the reason I'm asking the questions, Nick, is because in the text, the near demonstrative just refers to what just was said in the first 3 chapters. And what he's saying.
Of course, if you're looking at the first metatafta, but I clearly had already answered your question and said there is a second metatafta that is translated as hereafter. And Jesus said, after he actually caught up, well, the very next verse says, I was caught up. So this is what's happened. But he's saying, come up hither. And what I'm talking about there is the exact same language, come up hither, in the English, is used in Revelation 11 with the 2 witnesses. And it's exactly the same in the Greek, except the 2 witnesses, it's plural, with John, it's singular. And so it's not like a huge, big mystery. It's just like, okay, John was caught up, and so were the 2 witnesses. That's all I'm bringing up. And so I'm saying, like, anyone would see that. Even without this verse, you would see it. Like, if we go to Revelation, I'll go to Revelation 4, and I'll just show this up here. Like, the very next verse, just the context says, and immediately I was in the spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven. So 1 minute he's on earth, next minute he's in heaven looking at Jesus. So obviously, you know, the hereafter, the metatafta, is speaking about that. So that's why I'm like, oh, he doesn't know that. You know, it took me a while to realize he didn't know. And so anyway, let's continue with what he's got to say.
John is saying is, after Jesus showed me what I just wrote in the first 3 chapters, then he showed me this in chapter.
Yes, and promised that he would show him things that will be after this as well, which is the metatafta that I'm talking about. So he's actually talking about something. I've mentioned there's 2 metataftas. I probably, just to save confusing someone like Bryan on that issue, I could just mention the second metatafta, but I do point out that it was twice in that verse, and I clearly said it's translated as after this and hereafter.
Chapter 4, it simply means that as John is having the vision, as this revelation is occurring, this revealing of these truths, that's what apocalypse is. It's a revealing of this vision that Jesus gave John, that he told him to write down. First, he gave him 7 letters to churches, and then after this, he took him up to the throne room, and this is what he saw.
Yeah, but before he took him to the throne room, he clearly said, I will show thee things that must be hereafter, metatafta, relating to, you know, the things which you have seen. He saw Christ, chapter 1, things which are the 7 churches, chapter 2 and 3, and the things which shall be hereafter, the metatafta in the Greek, relating to the hereafter here.
So my point is that this is the letter to the 7 churches. After what Jesus had to say to the 7 churches, then Jesus took me to the throne room and showed me all these other things. And my point is that if you just read the text straightforward, that's what he's saying, is that after this happened, then this happened.
Which in the normal narrative context of what he's pointing at, the first metatafta, yeah. But in the second one, absolutely not. That is clearly talking about, I will show you future events. Because he does for the next, right, all the way basically from chapter 4. I mean, even regardless of whether you believe in a pre-trib rapture or whatever, some people are post-trib and all the rest of it, but they would say, Revelation 4 that's the hereafter. So that's why someone like Bart Ehrman would just summarize a whole heap of positions like that and say, well, they would go with the metatafta. I don't think Bart Ehrman even uses the metatafta. He just says hereafter. So.
In the vision, when Jesus was revealing this to me. One other thing that I'd like to ask you about, Nick, was what you referenced in 1 Thessalonians 4, the word harpazo. The word harpazo is a Greek word that means to be snatched up or caught up, to grab or seize something. Say you could grab an animal or something, you know.
And I'm thinking, okay, I haven't been able to finish the first one. The metatufta things like, okay, I can't seem to get a word in. And the second one is sort of like, I'm thinking harpazo. Okay, I've studied harpazo like a lot. It's one of those words I know a lot about. So I'm like, cool, he's asking me some good questions. I'm going to have some good answers here. Watch this. That's what I'm thinking.
That's you could grab it real fast as it's trying to get away, or pick something up.
I mean, harpazo is used, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence. The word, or the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, the violent take it by force. Taking it by force is harpazo. It's used in so many different contexts of snatching, stealing. That's where the Latin word rapture actually has that old style. When they'd go into a village and rape and pillage, it didn't actually necessarily mean just sexually abusing someone, but to rape meant to steal. That's where you have the rapture. It's a stealing away. It's a snatching away. It's Jesus comes as a thief in the night. All this language fits together. So I know what harpazo means. I know where it occurs in the New Testament. I'm not a stranger to this issue. So I'm thinking, cool, he's asking me some good questions. I'll have some good answers.
Up suddenly. So what about that word tells you that the being caught up will happen prior to the Great Tribulation?
Okay, so what about the word rapture? What about that one word tells me that we're going to be caught up prior to the Great Tribulation? Well, as I mentioned earlier, I take the book of Revelation chronologically. And obviously, if I'm looking at this verse here, and I'm saying there's actually a shift because of the metatufta, because it's mentioned that there's the past, there is the present, and there is the future, because I'm saying that, well, this is obviously where Jesus starts showing the future issues, then I'm saying there's been like a paradigm shift. There is a move toward talking about future events. So what has prompted this move? And so he's saying, okay, what about harpazo is telling you that it's in the future? So he's actually sort of saying, okay, if you get the word harpazo and you define that word harpazo, how does that word tell you that it's to do before the tribulation? And I mean, there's many places I could go with that. 1 Thessalonians talks about the dead in Christ who rise first, we that are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them to meet the Lord in the air, so shall we ever be with the Lord. But obviously to just get a word and say, fit the doctrine into the word. Now, the word is part of a defining process. And so sometimes you can get a word, like say the word Passover, it can mean a Passover lamb, it can be a 7-day feast, it can be the Passover day. It can mean lots of different things. And so you can have things like a polyseme, and it means lots of different things. When you have harpazo, a harpazo just simply means to be caught up. And it's the context that determines, where someone was caught up, or where someone was snatched away, because it talks about the violent shall take it by force. Well, that's a rapture. That's a snatching away. But it mightn't be a pre-trib rapture. You know what I mean? So you've got to put every harpazo in its context. And so he's asking me, where does that word mean that it's going to happen before the tribulation? So let's just continue. So I guess it's the exact same language as used in that verse in Revelation 4:1, where it says, so where I was going with this is in my mind, I'm like, okay, if I go to Revelation 4:1, then I go to Revelation 11 and explain the two prophets, they're caught up. Then I go back to 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and talk about how Paul was caught up. And he uses the word harpazo twice, okay? So I'm going to do that for you. So what I might do, I might actually do it right now, and then I'll show you how I was sort of cut off and just sort of talked over and all the rest of it. So I will grab Where are we? Okay, so we're in Revelation 4:1. So let's have a quick look at this. So we're reading, after this I looked, and behold, a door was open in heaven, and the first voice which I heard was as it were a trumpet talking with me. So it's like a loud voice. And he said, come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter. So yeah, how can we know that come up hither means a type of a resurrection? Well, I'll grab this other bit of information that I grabbed here. I wasn't sure whether I would have time during the actual debate itself to talk about this, so I just put it here, and that's why I thought, oh, well, I won't waste it. I'll just do another video. Okay, so let's copy and paste this into mine, and let's have a look at this. All right, there's too much information there. I need some space. Okay, Metatafta. Let's go now. So here's the come up hither. Okay, come up hither, and we've talked about the after this hereafter, so we don't need that. But this is in Revelation 11, verse 12, and it says, and they heard the voice from heaven saying to them, come up hither. It's exactly the same English words, as you can see. Now, I've put the Greek here. Anaba ode is here. And you've got anabete ode here. Now, Revelation 4:1, come up hither, is in the singular because it's only John. It's one person. So the anaba ode, come up hither, and that's how you pronounce it. Revelation 11:12, anabete ode, come up hither, is in the plural because there's two prophets. Now, when you read the context, so obviously, after this I looked, and behold, a door was open in heaven, and the first voice I heard was as it were a trumpet talking with me, which said, come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter. And immediately I was in the spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. So he's in heaven immediately. So 1 minute he's on earth, sees a door open in heaven, and says, come up hither. So he's not going down, he's not going sideways, he's going up. Come up hither. So then if we go to Revelation 11, we can see in verse 12 where it's talking about these two guys. And it says, you know, they were dead. And it says, and after 3 days and a half, a spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet. And great fear fell upon them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. So it's the exact same Greek word, except it's in the plural because there's two of them. And it says, and they ascended up into heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. So that's obviously a rapture, isn't it? There's no mistaking that they were raptured. They're dead. They're taken up from heaven. They went up to heaven in a cloud. They ascended up to heaven. And so it's using the very same type of wording here. So that's pretty obvious. So then if we go to, where are we? 2 Corinthians. I might even just get this up here, because there's a few verses involved. I sort of have to show this. So you can see the harpazo, the 726, having been caught up. So it's using the exact same wording. Now, if we just quickly jump down to an English translation of this, we can see the King James Bible says, whether I was in the body, I cannot tell, or out of the body, I cannot tell, God knoweth. Such a one was caught up to the third heaven. Okay, so he was caught up. And that is using the word harpazo, which is where we get our word rapture. So Paul was raptured up into heaven. Okay, so let's just get the whole chapter there, just so we can have a look at it. Now, I'll just read the context down to, I think it's verse 4 or verse 5. It says, it is not expedient for me, doubtless, to glory. I will come to visions and revelations of the Lord. I knew a man in Christ about 14 years ago, whether in the body I cannot tell, or out of the body I cannot tell, God knoweth, how such a one was caught up to the third heaven. And I knew such a man, whether in the body or out of the body, I cannot tell, God knoweth, how that he was again caught up into paradise and heard unspeakable words which it is not lawful for a man to utter. Of such a one I will glory, yet of myself I will not glory, but in my infirmities. So Paul uses caught up twice here. First time he's caught up in heaven. Now it's the same event, but the second time he says it's caught up into paradise, which is interesting because before the resurrection, paradise, you descended into paradise because it was Abraham's bosom, which is quite interesting. So, so we can clearly see this is a harpazo. Okay, so if we look at the usage of caught up here, 726, we can see a lot of places where, yeah, the violent take it by force is a harpazo. You know, plunder his goods, harpazo, catcheth away, talking about the parable of the sower, taketh away the seed, you know, takes him by force. So other versions would have, you know, seize and things like this. The wolf catcheth them, that's a harpazo. So to do a study in harpazo is very helpful. Philip was caught away. So that's a very interesting supernatural thing that happened in the book of Acts. He wasn't caught up to heaven, he was caught away to a different place, taken by force. But here we have what Paul's talking about. Such a one was caught up, and we can see this is harpazo, and then we see in 2 verses later he was caught up to paradise. This is the exact same word as caught up in the King James here in 1 Thessalonians 4:17, which is harpazo, pulling them out of the fire in Jude. So obviously that's not to do with rapture of any kind. But then Revelation 12:5, it's interesting, was caught up to God. It's used again, which is speaking about the pre-tribulation rapture there. So when you do a study on harpazo, which, you know, I've just given you a basic sort of, you know, study. You can look at it, it means carried off, caught, snatched. This is in the NASB, but, you know, I'm just showing you what's in front of me because I just don't have time to go to the all the King James places, and, you know, you can sort of see what it's translated as. But being caught up is quite a common thing. And so when you go to these other places, Revelation 11, when it's saying come up hither, they're being caught up, and obviously it's used as a rapture. So when you go to Revelation 4 verse 1 and it says come up hither, the same English, and the only reason I'm saying it's the same Greek word, because most people go, well, it's a mistranslation, the King James guys were smoking crack that day, and it's like, okay, so that's why I go to the Greek, because it's not disputed in the critical text, the majority text, or the Textus Receptus. They all say, you know, hereafter. They all say metatafta. They all say come up hither in their own way. But let's continue with the video. Come up hither. Now that's used in Revelation chapter.
Same word, though.
See, I'm just getting talked over. So I was about to explain that in a very quick way. I was going to go, okay, come up hither is the same Greek word in Revelation 11, and that is being caught up into heaven. And Paul was caught up into heaven, and he describes it as a harpazo, the rapture. It's the exact same word in 1 Thessalonians as the rapture. So just piecing these together, I guess in a way I've assumed that he's, you know, saying he's a former dispensationalist. I'm assuming he's done these type of studies, but I'm not sure, you know, looking back.
Harpazo is not used in Revelation 4.
Yeah, I'm not talking about harpazo. I'm talking about Revelation chapter 11, sorry. So the exact same word that's used in Revelation 4:1 is used in Revelation chapter 11 when it says, come up hither, and I will show thee things that must come to pass. So when the two witnesses were caught up, the voice said, come up hither. It's the exact same Greek word, but it's in the plural in Revelation 11. So it
Revelation
is a type.
11 verse what?
I just want to,
what verse?
I think it's verse 6. I haven't got it in front of me.
Is it verse 12 come up here?
Yes. And so in the Greek, it's exactly the same as Revelation 4:1. So that is most definitely a rapture. These two guys get resurrected. Then they, Okay, so let's just look. Am I correct on this? Let's just have a look. Now, obviously, during the debate, I've just sort of copied and pasted this just so I can do this. But I don't want to confuse you with anything else. Here is Revelation 4:1 with the Greek. Anaba or there, come up hither, singular, and the anabate or there, come up hither, plural, because there's two prophets, but there's only one of John. So obviously, when I'm saying it's the same Greek, and I'm saying one's in plural and one's singular, it's pretty clear. So anyway, let's continue. It's taken up into heaven. So it's most definitely a rapture.
I'm looking at the Greek text for the word harpazo.
He's looking for the word harpazo. So he's not following what I'm saying. And like, I understand, like, but the thing is, he's saying, like, at the end, he was saying he's read the, New Testament in Greek and all this, sort of making out that he can read Greek, and I'm talking about, these things are pretty basic sort of things, and specifically to do with the rapture, which is something that he's rejecting and standing against. So anyway, I'm trying to get my point across about Revelation 4:1 with the metatafta thing. He's not seeing that because he's sort of not listened to what I've said. Then with this, I sort of felt like he didn't really listen to what I said as well. So let's continue.
I don't see it.
It doesn't have harpazo there. So I'm sort of, Revelation 12:5 has harpazo. And I'm repeating it how he said it, harpazo, explaining that it is relative to a rapture, because the exact same Greek words, when it says come up hither, John was taken up, and when it says come up,
Greek words,
and so he hasn't. I think that this is the thing. He hasn't stopped and listened. He's just been frustrated the whole time, and I don't know if this is a ploy. I did feel like, okay, this guy's just sort of going to talk over me, because it makes you look crazy, because it's like, no, that's not true. No, that's not happening. What about this word? What about, and just asking a whole bunch of questions all at once, and you're sort of like, okay. In the end, I was just like, man, this guy's not listening to anything I'm saying. Like, I've explained the metatafta issue, and then I've explained the issue with come up hither, and I'm saying, okay, it's in Revelation 11, but he's like, well, let's prove this, and it's like, well, surely you should take my word for it that I've studied this out. I'm not going to go out in public and just say, hey guys, I'm just making up verses here. But then he's like, I can't find harpazo there. It's like, well, I'm actually not talking about harpazo yet. I'm getting there. And so he just looks frustrated. Everyone's just looking, going, what's going on? Because he's sort of throwing dust in the air. And that's why I'm making this video, to show people, anyone who goes through this video can see it's pretty clear.
In Revelation 11:12, the exact same Greek words. What words?
I haven't got them right in front of me. So
I
mean, that's a pretty specific question, to just ask, in the Greek language, what does this word mean? It's like, well, he's asking on the spot things. I'm trying to give answers. And then he's like, no, I'm not seeing this. I'm not seeing that. And it's like, okay, well, at least give me time to look this up.
You don't see anything in these texts that are the same Greek words. And so,
okay, so he's not seeing anything in this text of the same Greek words. So let's just look again. As I clearly said, Revelation 4:1 is in the singular. Revelation 11:12 is in the plural. And he should have just taken it at face value that I'm right on this. I'm not going to jump on a program and defend he mightn't agree with it. He mightn't agree with the pre-trib position, but obviously I'm providing information that he will go, okay, well, that's your perspective. Not, I can't, there's just nothing there at all. So he's seeing nothing with metatafta. He's seeing nothing with anaba ode or anabate hode. He's seeing nothing there. No similarity, like clearly, like you can see it here. Even if you can't read Greek, you can clearly, you can see it in the phonetic explanation here. And one's just singular and one's plural, because Greek is an inflected language. So it's exactly the same Greek, but just with an inflection. So it's like seeing Jesus or it's like saying Sabbath, or sometimes it has Sabbaths, but it's singular. It might have a Sabbaton. You sometimes have words that, like, say, Rabdon, don't bring a staff. Okay, it's singular, but you make it plural when you're talking to a group of people. And so that's all it's done here, is made it plural. You might say, don't bring your phone. You're talking to 100 people. Phone singular, but it becomes plural in context. But here it's clearly part of the inflection. So you can't get around that. It's not an interpretive issue. It's just like, so everything I've said so far has been kosher, 100%. But he's not seeing it, and I don't know if he's purposely not seeing it, and then going on to another issue very quickly, so that then it's like, man, he doesn't seem to do this with anyone else, but this was the only bit in the whole debate that I felt I was sort of pushed back a little bit too hard, but that's fine. That's the way he wanted to do it.
If I could stop there, I would just say maybe the translation is similar in English, but the underlying...
It's exactly the same in English. It's exactly the same in English. It's exactly the same in Greek, except it's plural. And if he can read Greek, like he said, he should be able to pick that up. Come up hither is exactly the same in English. It's the same in Greek, but the underlying Greek, but it's in Revelation. He's not even listening to me. Just watch this. I'll just play this a few times.
I don't see, you'd have to tell me which ones, because I'm
playing Greek. Come up hither is exactly the same in English. It's the same in Greek, but the underlying Greek, but it's in Revelation. It's the same in Greek, but the underlying Greek, but it's in Revelation.
You're referring to.
Same in Greek, but the underlying Greek, but it's in Revelation.
You're referring to.
In Greek, but the underlying Greek, but it's in Revelation.
You're referring.
It's the same in Greek, but the underlying Greek, but it's in Revelation.
You're referring to. I don't see. You'd have to.
So he's just talking over me. So this is not how you do a proper debate. You steel man someone's argument. You go, okay, Nick, so what do you actually believe? Because I thought that Zach believed in a literal, sorry, no, it wasn't Zach. Brian believed in a literal 1,000-year millennium. I thought that was his position, because it's sort of hard to find information just about just one particular individual. So I'm obviously studying pre-mill theology, historic pre-mill theology, just from stuff on the internet and debates, and I'm listening to it going, okay, well, that's a position. I'm looking at a bunch of websites, that's a position. So I'm asking, okay, so do you believe in a 1,000-year period? And it sort of shocked me that he didn't believe it. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And he said he's more like an amill. And it's like, oh, so he's got his own unique point of view, and that's fine. But I was trying to steel man his argument, rather than say, you just talk over him. No matter what he says, just talk over him. So let me just play that again. He's talking over me.
To tell me which ones.
Underlying Greek, but it's in Revelation.
You're referring to.
Same in Greek. So try and figure out what I'm saying. Greek, but the underlying Greek, but it's in Revelation.
You're referring to. I don't.
But the underlying Greek, but it's in Revelation.
You're referring to.
Okay, so we'll continue on.
I don't see. You'd have to.
So he's not seeing the words that I'm referring to. It's like, okay, well, you've gone from, metatafta, and then you're asking about harpazo, and I'm like, okay, well, let's look at caught up here, because he was in Revelation 4:1, so I'm thinking he wants to talk about that. Then he's talking about harpazo. How can you make the word harpazo mean it's going to happen before the tribulation? It's like, well, that only occurs in a context. It doesn't. The word itself is neutral. You have to have a semantic domain for that word to mean something.
To tell me which ones, because I'm looking at the text.
I'll
I didn't see the same phrase in Greek in those verses. So
he's asking another question, not trying to clarify, not saying, hey, Nick, I hope I'm not misrepresenting you or anything. He's just like, and this is what to me, this is the sort of thing that Stephen Boyce was doing to me when I debated him. I can't remember who else was. When I was talking with Donny Budinski and Praise I Am, they were doing this type of thing. That asked like 4 or 5 rapid questions, and I'm trying to answer. And at the end, you sort of like, if I was to get a timer and go, how long have I spoken for and how long has he spoken for? There's hardly any, I'm not allowed to speak. I'm just talked over and told I'm wrong. And the next question, and it's like, and so, but the thing is, I'm just too polite. That's my problem. Instead of saying, hey, mate, quieten down a little bit. Let me speak, mate. Just being full on. But I'm just like, oh, well, I usually hope that the audience would see through that type of thing. But some people go, wow, that's fantastic. That's a great way of debating. To me, it's just squabble. It's like just, you may as well just go in the background and just press like a phone, go all the way through me talking just to annoy someone. And it's like, why ask me questions if you don't want an answer? And see, sometimes too, if someone asks me a question, just even in general in real life, and I know they don't want an answer, I just can't be bothered. Like some people ask you a question, what do you think of this? And I'm thinking, they really don't want to know. I remember one time I was in a car and I was with a good friend, and there were two girls driving. Well, one girl was driving, obviously. Two girls were in the front seat. And so they were talking specifically about the different cultures between the Hebrew and the Greek culture and how different they are. And I'd actually been studying about how similar they were because they had deities. Now, obviously, one's got a false deity, but one has a real deity. But also the Hebrews had false deities as well. But they were agrarian economies. They had lots of similarities. They're around the Mediterranean. And so I'm looking at all this because a lot of people just point out differences in things instead of looking at similarities. So I'm thinking I'm not going to talk because I know that they will just shut me down because they've already got their opinions. These type of people are not interested in what I've got to say one little bit. And so it was surprising. The guy next to me said, Nick, you read the Bible a lot and you're always studying and things. What do you think about it? And I'm like, oh, here we go. And so I said, well, I actually think there's quite a lot of similarities between the Greek culture and the Hebrew culture. And like before I could even finish, I was just yelled at and just the conversation got really loud. And it was like, why have I bothered? They're just not interested in what I've got to say one little bit. And so that's what I felt like here. I was just sort of like, in the end, like, is this guy really asking me questions or just sort of belittling me?
So to get back at what you're saying, harpazo is a Greek word that simply means to snatch something up, to lift something suddenly. What about that word tells you that the snatching up, the harpazo, the rapture is the Latin, which just means to suddenly snatch something in Latin, rapture. What about the word harpazo in Greek tells you when it will take place?
When it will take place? So, like I said, you can't go, okay, harpazo, I'm fitting. It's like saying, what about the word sozo means that Jesus died on the cross for your sins? It's like, well, no, obviously you put sozo in its context. It means salvation. Jesus brought salvation by dying on the cross. There's plenty of verses that talk about that. So you have to put it in a context. You can't just get a word and go, oh, here's a whole theology behind it. Now, some words you can. Passover, it means lots of different things. But the thing is too, sometimes a word can be translated 20 different ways. You get that from Greek into English. Sometimes you get it from English into Greek. It's just the way that language works. And so saying, prove your position from one word. And it's like, okay. I'm like, well, I never said that I could do that in my opening statements or anything, but, let's try and answer what he's got to say here. And you've got to understand, I'm still going, okay, metatafta, he's confused on that. And now I'm going, come up hither, he's confused on that. And I never got to finish what I've got to say. And now he's talking about something, talking about harpazo. I want you to squeeze your whole doctrine into that word. Well, I guess 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 it talks about that's where it uses hub. And what you got to understand too, all of these guys are not pre-trib or don't believe in a rapture. Okay, so I'm sort of there going, like in my own, narcissistic, paranoid mind, I'm like, are these guys sort of inviting me on the show because they want to have a really bad take at the dispensationalists? But then, I don't think that they would go that far, and then I'm like, no, let's clear my mind. I don't think that at all. But there was a niggling little thing in the background, like, is this just sort of, because my question time, I think I did quite well in trying to extrapolate what people think and what they believe. And then I'm okay, well, you do believe this. Let's look at, the millennium. How come you see it? And how come you don't see it as literal when it's clearly talking about, this and that, and talking about before and after and during, why wouldn't you see that as literal? So I think I was pretty fair with that, but let's continue. Pedro says, we that are alive and remain should be caught up together with them, with the dead people, to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. So if we are talking about a rapture type of event, that would be something that is in that type of timeline where when the dead rise at the resurrection, we are also risen up alive with them.
Well, Nick, I guess what I'm saying is,
so, it's, you can't squeeze everything into the word harpazo. Just so that I feel like that question is more like it's a question sort of designed not to be answered. Like, because I mean, it's like me saying, how do you get, like if I was, or if he was to ask me, how do you get 1,000 years and all your doctrine out of the word 1,000 in the Bible? Go. And it's like, or actually you have to read the whole context of Revelation 20 and talk about the 1,000 years. You have to put a word is neutral until it's in a context somewhere, unless it's a specifically loaded word, like I said, Passover or something like that. Then it means, even concepts like Day of the Lord, that's just something that is a specific timing of something in a particular context. If you get the Day of the Lord and put it somewhere else, that the same context as it was in, say 2 Peter chapter 3 or 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3, it says Day of Christ there, but the Day of the Lord concept is still there. If you were to just grab that and put it over things, you can cause problems. So reading, like say the Perusia. The Perusia means coming, okay? So people are like, wherever Perusia is, it's talking about Jesus coming back, But it even says the Antichrist is going to, it talks about Jesus, yes, but Paul talks about, when I come back to you and visit you again, talking to churches, Stephanus is coming, Titus is coming. This is all Perusia language. Even Paul talking about his presence. He's like, in my presence, I'm weak and all this. He's talking about his Perusia. But the Antichrist also is coming in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. So you can't get the word Perusia and go, it's only talking about Jesus coming. You can't do that. So you have to put every word in its context and work it out from there, because not every word's the same. And you have nouns that will not change. You have names that will not change. But you have these words that can mean different things in different contexts. So let's continue.
I've been studying and reading the Greek New Testament for about 15 years, and
okay, so he's been so this is what I was waiting for. Like, it's an appeal to his superior scholarship, and I understand. Look, some people have grown up in an old IFB situation. People are Ruckmanites. People are making all sorts of claims and things like that, which I usually cringe at. And I understand he's just thinking I'm making this stuff up. I don't know about Metatufta. I don't know about come up hither. I don't know about harpades. I know lots about this. I've talked, if he goes through my eschatology series, he would see nearly every video I talk about this. And that's why my videos go for 4 or 5 hours, because I do tend to repeat myself. And anyone who's ever followed through with those videos would go, yeah, you know your stuff. And so, but Brian's just immediately dismissing everything I say. And I'm proving that I'm saying the right things. I'm stopping it and going back, but he's talking over the top of me. So he's getting the wrong idea, and then he's misrepresenting me.
Studied and translated all these texts from the Hebrew and Greek originally.
So he's translated it from the Greek and Hebrew originals. He's translated everything. And so, yeah, this is obviously an appeal to authority. He's saying, I know more than you. You know nothing, when clearly he doesn't know anything about metatafta. He doesn't know anything about anaba or they. He doesn't know about the harpazo and how that is related to the come up hither and how that's related to Paul. He doesn't know this. Like, I'm saying this just as matter of factly, like, okay, this and that. And he's stopping me every part of the way and saying, no, then talking over me and then saying, I've translated Hebrew, I've translated Greek, and I've read these things for 15 years. Okay. I mean, I've been studying these things too for 30 years. So it's like, it doesn't matter. You can be a scholar. Like I've interviewed Nehemiah Gordon on this channel just recently, and there were things that he said that I don't agree with, and I know that are wrong. And obviously, he's a Jewish guy, he's not a Christian, but there are some things that I've done deep dives into, I know about. Now, there's plenty I don't know about, but the things that I've done deep dives into, usually I know about it, and I don't bring them up unless I do know about them. That's why in this debate, I just said, when they asked about the temple, I'm like, sorry, if you want to ask me about that, I have no idea. And that's because I haven't really studied it. I could give a briefing, I could, skim over it, but I'm just like, no, sorry. And but definitely on these issues, I know what I'm talking about.
Originally, and I just don't see anything in the Greek text, whether we're referencing Revelation 4:1 or whether we're referencing here Revelation 11. I don't see anything in 1 Thessalonians 4:13.
He's going to 4:13 for the rapture verse. It's like
that is
it's 4:17, by the way.
It's translated into English that is somehow occluded or hidden in the Greek, so that
I'm not saying it's hidden in the Greek. Usually I bring up the Greek just so people can see the connections there. I mean, if I was old IFB Ruckmanite sort of thing, I wouldn't bring up Greek. I enjoy bringing up Greek. I've never been part of those camps. I've always studied Greek words. I usually study where Greek words are rather than just looking at the Strongs. Well, I do both, but you're looking at where the English usage is so you can understand that, but you're also looking at the Greek usage, as I've just done with harpazo. And if anyone can show me where I've been wrong so far, no one can. But he's not seeing it, and this is the problem.
I need to refer to the underlying Greek text to explain the English translation. I mean,
I've never referred in this whole conversation to the underlying Greek text to explain the translation. I've said, okay, the Greek says this, and the English says the same thing. Because usually you go, oh, the English says this, and people go, oh, well, the Greek, and they start waffling on about the Greek. And so I've just sort of cut that middleman out and just gone, okay, the Greek and the English say this. And it's not even a textual issue at all. So he's trying to make out that I've gone to the Greek to try and twist the English or something. So let's listen to exactly what he said here.
I mean, so that is translated into English that is somehow occluded or hidden in the Greek, so that I need to refer to the underlying Greek text to explain the English translation. I mean, after this, metatauta in Revelation 4:1, I mean, it doesn't matter if I say it in English or in Greek, it means the same thing.
So I've just brought it across here after is metatauta. It's just information. It's like he just said the rapture is, harpazo. Well, why did he say that? Why didn't you just use the English word then? It's like, well, you do that to explain to people things. You mightn't like the way I delivered it, but it's like, well, you can't poke holes in something that doesn't have any holes, and just say, well, you shouldn't have used languages. Oh, okay, sorry. I'll only use languages when you're happy with it.
I guess my point is it seems a bit of an appeal to authority to quote the Greek text when the Greek text just means what the English translation says. And there's nothing in the Greek text that would indicate anything unique about what's being said.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, sorry, I'll only bring up the Greek when it's unique. But he brought up harpazo. And he said harpazo can mean snatch away, harpazo can mean this and that. And okay, so how come he's allowed to do it, but no one else is allowed? So this is not really a debate, is it? And he's not really even asking me questions. He's just telling me that I've just done something wrong, which I haven't really done anything wrong. I've just pointed out something. And I said, hey, even like bog standard atheists explain it like I do. Bart Ehrman explains it like the past, the present, and the future. He's explaining the hereafter there. I've just gone hereafter. Oh, it's the Greek metatafta. Oh, in Revelation 4:1, it has metatafta there as well. It's not a big deal. Once you know that, it's like saying, okay, the word is rapture there, or the word is caught up there. It means harpazo, or in the Latin, it means rapture. You say these things. You might like them, but it doesn't mean I'm wrong. Like, you got to prove me wrong. You can't just go, well, your methodology, you're appealing to authority by saying Greek. It's like, well, not really, not at all. And the reason that I'm going to the Greek when it comes to come up hither is because I'm just pointing out that it's exactly the same, so that people don't go, well, you're just a King James up, because that's the next thing I was waiting for, was to these guys to throw me under a Ruckmanite or Ripplingerite bus, and just go, you're a King James. I was waiting for it, but it sort of never happened. Not for these guys. I didn't find that with this type of thing with anyone else.
I would just caution everyone, just because the Greek words are cited doesn't mean that there's some hidden meaning in them. I mean,
I never said there was a hidden meaning in anything. I mean, if he knows the Greek, he should have just heard me say it in English and then say it in Greek and gone, yeah, they equal each other. That's fine. There's no problem with saying that. You're saying 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You're saying the same thing.
And sometimes Greek syntax and semantic domain of words can really show us a lot about a certain text, but a lot of times the English translation is just fine, and we don't need a reference to that. And I would just say I would not reference the underlying Greek text unless you're prepared to explain the exegesis of the Greek text, not the English translation. If I could move on.
So he's saying, you can't bring up the Greek unless you can explain the exegesis of the Greek text. Okay, so now you've got to exegete the text in Greek. So you can't just bring up a Greek word. If you bring up a Greek word, you have to be a Greek scholar, and obviously I've studied these things for 15 years, so I am a Greek scholar. So in other words, you're not like me, you're not as skilled as me, you don't know as much as me, even though he's missed the metatafta, the second point that I brought up. He has no idea about that, even though he can't find the same Greek words in Revelation 4:1 and Revelation 11:12, and he saw them, and he's like, I can't see this. I'm like, well, one's plural, one's singular. He's like, I can't see it. Okay. And then he's asking me to put my whole doctrine into one word, and asking where I see a pre-trib rapture in the word harpazo. And I'm like, you don't do that, So when it comes, look at my picture here. I look like a bit of a zombie, but I'm just sort of like, like, where's this going? Well, why is he doing this? So anyway, you can see why I've made this quick video. I know it's gone for an hour already, but let's continue.
I'd like to go to Keith next.
So you can see I roll my eyes. Watch this.
If I could move on, I'd like to
I'm like, oh, whatever.
to go to Keith next. So again,
and the thing is that, like, the reason I'm rolling my eyes is because I tire of people who call themselves apologists who do this type of thing. It's just like when you're debating atheists, you're not there to win a point. You're there to win souls. You're there to say truth. When you're talking to Muslims, when you're debating them, you got to just say truth, and you got to steel man their argument. You can't just say you believe this, you believe that, and put a whole bunch of stuff on them. They'll just shut off. And like here, I'm just like, whatever. I just can't be bothered. And so because he's just done this type of thing to me, and so let's go back to my original opening where I talk about this. Now, I did open it up here. And let's see exactly what I said for him to warrant that type of questioning. It says it's like a bird or like something. I believe it's chronological from chapter 4. Now, the book of Revelation is divided into 3 parts. In Revelation 1:19, Jesus said to John, write the things that you have seen, the past, the things which are present, and the things which shall be hereafter, the future. Now, the Greek for hereafter there is metatafta. Okay, so he's triggered by me saying this. I've only just said that because it's so easy to see metatafta, because I don't know what versions they're reading either. If I say, well, the King James says this, they're like, well, my version doesn't say this. It's like, this just cuts through all that. So Revelation 4:1 actually has metatafta twice there. It says after this, clearly said it says it twice. He's gone to Google search. He's like, oh, I can only see once. Oh, that's just narrative. It's not talking about the future. And it's like at the end of that verse, it says metatafta again, twice. So I clearly said it here. I clearly said it in my answers. So this. And then it says, I looked and behold, a door was opened in heaven. The first voice I heard was like a trumpet talking to me, saying, come up hither, I will show you the things that must be hereafter, which is metatafta again. It's pretty basic. It's not a Sudoku puzzle. I'm not trying to confuse anyone. Like hereafter is metatafta in the Greek. It appears twice in this verse. Because I've found a lot of people go, oh, metatafta, and they talk about the first one. And so I don't know, maybe when he was dispensational, that was he's looked at that type of defense and laughed at it or whatever and changed his mind and gone his way. But it's clearly the second reference that we're talking about here. So I believe that's an indicator that the hereafter from chapter 4, verse 1 is the beginning of the future part of Revelation. I believe the 7 churches. So I'm not sure why no one was muted, but usually in a debate, everyone's muted. But throughout most of my presentation, it was sort of like noises and things, but that's fine. These are literal churches. We read those 7 churches just like we would read Ephesians or to the Romans or something like that. Now, the Bible says in Revelation, I think I've got a bit of an echo there, so sorry about that. The Bible says in Revelation chapter 1, behold, I'm coming quickly. Now, some versions have said, okay, so that's pretty much all that I said about it. I said Revelation 4:1, it says hereafter. This is referred to in Revelation 1, verse 19, where it says the past, the present, and hereafter. Write the things which you've seen, write the things which are, write the things which will be hereafter. It's referring to that. Now, I might even type that in, okay? After. Actually, I'll go to the commentaries. Revelation 4:1. We'll go to Bible Hub. Now, I haven't looked at any of these, so sometimes I go through something that's a bit of a harebrained idea, and it's like, oh, they didn't even mention it. But okay, so the metatafta is here. The metatafta idon, I saw. Idon metatafta. Okay, so so it stands at the beginning of an entire. Look at this. Even with what he was saying about it, the formula kai idon in Revelation 3:1 and Revelation 17:3 stand at the beginning of an entirely new important division. So that's interesting. Revelation 13:1, I would say, is the beginning of the last 3.5 years. I'm not sure about Revelation 17:3. I guess that's talking about the beast, or that could be the beginning of judgment, because it's the great whore, etc., being judged. So that's the beginning of the judgments, the final judgment. But, you know, I'm only just skipping through this. It's not really even what I want to see. Okay. First voice, come up hither, hereafter. So the Anaba, with respect to the form, Acts 12:7, saying, rise up quickly. Save yourself and come down from the, move from there. Anaba. Interesting. So when it's rising up, get off. But anyway, let's Metatufta. Look, I don't know who this is. Mayer's New Testament commentary. Okay, so my idea was as weird as weird gets, but Metatufta in the Greek, and it says as in Revelation 1:19. That's the only reason I brought it up. It's a cross reference. Here, I will show thee things that must be hereafter. To such things then future, the whole subsequent prophecy refers. So who's this? Benson's. I don't even know who Benson is. I've probably read his commentary heaps, but I hardly look at the names. I just go through and data mine. But so he says that's when the future prophecy begins. So when I'm saying Bart Ehrman's saying this, I'm saying, well, it's pretty common. Like the first couple of commentaries were looked at. Okay, I skipped one commentary here. The answer is simple, blah, blah, blah. It looks a bit spiritual there. Matthew Henry's, what does he say? Maybe I'll type in the Metatufta. Okay. Maybe hereafter. Okay, Cambridge schools, Bible for schools and colleges, hereafter, literally after these things, as in Revelation 1:19. That is after the state of the things described in the epistles to the seven churches. Okay, so I would say that that's not exactly describing what I want to see, but that would probably more so describe the first after this, or the first Metatufta. Okay. I will show the things which must be hereafter, Greek, after these things. The reference is to future events, and the meaning is that there would be disclosed to him events that were to occur in some future period. Yeah, you get the drift. Just if you want to study more of these, just go to the Bible Hub commentaries and go through and type in hereafter. After these things, after the present time, Revelation 1:19 again. So I guess my crime was that I quoted the Greek Metatufta. I didn't make any mistakes. I clearly said Revelation 1:4 with Anaba ode and Anabate ode. They're exactly the same in the Greek. One's plural, one's singular. In the English, one says come up hither, the other one says come up hither. So I'm sort of proving to him that there's no reason that anyone should do any further study. It's like that. There you go. It's in the Greek. It's in the English. We should all be in agreement here. He's pulling me over the coals for going to the Greek. So, okay. So I'm going to finish the video. I'll quickly go through some of these. King James, I saw you in the chat, stirring the pot. King James says, after this, the church age, AD 33, AD 2033, says hi. Sunu Heza says, I know a man in Christ years before, whether in the body I do not know, or outside the body I do not know. God knows such a one was caught up, harpazo, to the third heaven. Absolutely. It's a great verse. Acts 8:39, also Sunu from Hilly Billy's in the house. Bible Highlighter says, hello, everyone. Hey, Highlighter. Highlighter says, pre-trib or anytime rapture is true. The anytime rapture, yeah. I believe that too. Jesus was very clear. You got to be ready, watch and all this sort of stuff. I mean, he didn't say don't be ready and just relax, He said watch, think about these things, be ready. So everyone's just high-fiving. Sanu says, if I go up to heaven, Psalm 139:8, if I go up to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol or hell in the King James, behold, thou art there. Hilly says, back at you, Bible highlighter. I did an end times chronology a long time back. King James says, he doesn't know half of what he thinks he knows. Seminary has ruined many people and led them astray. He's an example of that. Highlighter says, we are taught to look for the blessed hope. Titus 2:13, looking for that blessed hope and the glorious appearing of the great God and Savior, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Yes, we're to look for it. Yeah, very good. Sinu says, Revelation 12:11, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their testimony, and they did not love their souls unto death or their lives unto death. Bible highlighter says the rapture is a new mystery revealed. 1 Corinthians 15:51, behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. We are told to pray so that we may escape all these things mentioned within the tribulation. Luke 21:36, watch ye therefore and pray always that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass and to stand before the Son of Man. I brought that up in the debate. It's a bomb on anyone who says the rapture is not going to happen before the tribulation. I mean, explain the last verse in Luke 21 explaining these things, where it's the last words Jesus says in that whole context, and it's like, hey, you can escape everything. It's pretty obvious. King James, the visceral hatred towards the rapture is irrational. I sort of do see that. There is there isn't the same type of hatred towards other positions. But when it comes to dispensationalism, the rapture, it's like, But I understand too, some of these guys are growing up in those type of things, and they've positioned themselves very differently. So there can be a whole bunch of emotional, because sometimes it's the IFB groups or the new IFB groups or whatever they're called. They have this type of thing, and they can be gnarly. Sometimes these pastors can be manipulative and abusive, and they can be in a church that's psycho. So they reject, the King James. We're getting rid of that, and we're going to get rid of dispensationalism. And so when I come along, I'm like, hey, I read the King James. I'm looking at the Textus Receptus, and hey, I believe in a pre-trib rapture. Sometimes I've triggered in people things that there's a lot of emotion that can come with that too. Now, I'm not saying that these guys argued from emotion. Bryan obviously was sort of trying to win points, debate points here, and it's a bit discouraging to see that it went that way. But after that, it was fine. I didn't mind the rest of the debate. It was fine, and I didn't mind being asked anything by Keith or by. And I'm sorry that I've forgotten the gentleman's name. I should know it because it's actually his channel. Zach, sorry. Because Josh is there, I get mixed up. And Josh has been the one contacting me, and then Zach's contacting me through email. So anyway, hereafter. So anyway, you guys can look at that. What am I doing? I'm going through the comments. I'm that tired that I'm just clicking things open and shutting them. Hilly says, if it were mid or post, everyone going into the millennium would be in glorified bodies which do not procreate. Okay. King James says, I told him immediately in the chat, Anabino Hade in Revelation 4 and Revelation 11. Yes. And they deleted all your comments, which to me, I don't delete anyone's comments. Usually I might get to the end and go, oh, well, this guy's a troll or whatever. But some people get really worked up. Oh, there's someone in here saying something. It's like, when you look at, unless you're moderating something like a Sam Shamoon channel where he's just got, 10 mods and they're just constantly going through and deleting things and everyone has to be in agreement and all this sort of stuff. I'd rather actually have people chat. And the thing is, if someone's unsaved and they come in, it's like, just preach to them, and it's not like we're writing a book or something. It's like they'll say something stupid, unless they're being really foul and disgusting. I'll delete them straight away. But if they're just disagreeing, I mean, that's part of evangelism. So I think, by deleting King James's comments, it's like, well, but that's up to them. Everyone runs their channel the way that they want, and I've got no problem with these guys, with what they want to do. But I did see that King James was putting up some information that was backing up what I was saying, and then that was all deleted, and it was like, oh, okay. Sunu Heza says Ezekiel 3:8, and he put out the form of a hand, and he took me by the lock of the head, and the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and the heavens and brought me in the visions of God. Oh, that's very interesting. Okay. King James, he wasn't listening to you. Yes. Flame for Truth. Hey, Nick, have you read John Hart's volume on the rapture? They have a good chapter on Revelation 12:5 and the pre-tribulation rapture. No, I haven't. I'll type that in. John Hart. I'm pretty sure I know John Hart's name. Rapture, Revelation 12:5. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, the Cripple Gate. 3 reasons why Revelation 12:5 describes a pre-trib rapture. Okay, that'll be very interesting. I won't read through that at the moment, but I do believe it's describing a pre-trib rapture as well. King James says, not going long, hey? Well, I guess I didn't want to do a chatty thing because, we're going to be chatting tomorrow, obviously with the 1 John 5:7 thing, but that's not going to be live. It's getting recorded. But yeah, so I thought, well, I don't want this to end up like a 3-hour marathon just talking about the debate. And I only really wanted to talk about what Bryan did. And because I just felt like he just sort of asked me a bunch of questions and then shut me out. And I was like, okay, I'm not even getting a chance to respond to you. What's the point? Hilly Billy says, I've got the feeling that folks that want to learn about the rapture better hurry. That's really good. Sunu says, it's possible all aspects of dispensationalism is relevant, amill, post-mill, pre-mill, within a correct time frame context, or all happening at the same time, but some signs more important than others. King James says, appeal to his own authority, and yet he doesn't know the words in Revelation 4 and 11 are the same. Give a link. Let's talk about this debate. You don't sound tired. No, I can't go on anymore. Sorry, bro. Looks like Bryan did not study the Greek New Testament. I thank God for you, Nick says. Thank you for this channel. That's Bobby G is in the house. Matthew 4:1. Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. Okay, led up. And I've begun a study where I'm going through from Matthew, going through and looking at every time Jesus or anyone went in a direction, went up to Jerusalem or, ascended up into heaven or came down, John 3, no one has ascended up into heaven, but he that came down for and just sort of pointing arrows in those directions and going, okay, they came out of here and they went into here. And the whole concept of location is very, very interesting. Hilly's saying, like that smash button. Josh is saying, enjoyed having you on. I really enjoyed that, Josh, and would love to do anything that you've got in the future. And I hope also that you don't see this as a bit of a diss video. I think it was just because I couldn't say what I wanted to say in that one particular question and answer time. And so I'm like, well, no, I'm not going to just let that go. I'm going to do a very quick video on it. Quick is 1 hour and 23. And, I usually just say, look, it just, if I was the sharpest tool in the shed, I could probably do it in 10 minutes. But, I have to sort of go through and repeat things and go over things and rehash things. And so anyway, God bless you guys. Thanks for all coming on. I'm going to shut this down. And I didn't play my intro, and I'm not going to play my outro because it's not really relevant. When I'm talking about the new IFB's eschatology, it's different. And all the pictures are to do with, Texe Marrs and Donny Budinski and all the guys who have been formerly new IFB or still in there, you know, Stephen Anderson, these type of guys. And so, yeah, so I'm not going to play that. But what I discussed with these guys, I actually really enjoyed just focusing in the last couple of weeks on the millennium. The millennium, it's just such a very fascinating and interesting topic. And so I listened mostly to Keith's material. Keith Foskey, he's tended to do a lot of debates on this, and I listened to maybe 4 of his debates, which was great, and one rapture one, which was interesting, one where he's debating, I think, a post-mill guy, and just trying to get my head around what these individuals believe. So yeah, that was all fun. Boulders Alone, I just snuck in. I didn't expect to see you all tonight. Nick must be wound up about something. Yeah. Josh says it's all good, and we're still new to that particular format, still working at the bugs. I thought it was great. Very good. King James says, yep. Hilly Billy says, how do you prove the postal schedule by the word mailbox? Yeah, it was a little bit like that. It's like, Derek says, boo, caught the end, which is weird to say only an hour and a half in. Laughing out loud, I'll have to backtrack. Yeah, and this was just like, okay, I'll quickly do like a 10-minute video, and it's like an hour and 25. So I'm definitely going to go. I'm going to go and chill out. Now, tomorrow I have Bryan Ross. I'm interviewing Bryan Ross on this channel live. So that's going to be awesome. So that is going to happen 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Now, I better get the correct information here, because I'll announce something, everyone will turn up, and I won't be there because I've given the wrong time or something. Okay, my video, or my, how do I get there? Where are we? My channel, there we go. And live. So here we have Bryan Ross in 15 hours. And so this is happening on the 10th of May, 4 p.m. New York City time. So I just put New York City time because people were like, yeah, Eastern Standard Time. But then if they're in daylight savings, it's Eastern Daylight Time. But most people don't know it's daylight time, because I think it's like only Arizona and a few other places that don't have that type of time. So they know about it, but no one else does. So it's just like New York City time. That's fine. You'll figure it out. So 4 o'clock, which I guess is, you know, Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Daylight Time. So yeah, that's going to be great. So I'm going to have good fun with Bryan Ross. And Hilly says, you two have the same essay questions since you were late. Yeah, there's going to be a test, and you won't go in the rapture if you get these wrong. No. Okay, God bless you guys, and we'll see you around.